Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Rule Book Room. I am Harv. Alright, let me start with a simple question. What if two people walk into court together and say, we both want a divorce? Seems like the easiest case ever, right? No fighting, no drama, no allegations, just mutual consent. But what if one of them changes their mind? Can they back out? Or are they stuck with what they said earlier? That's exactly the legal puzzle we are decoding today in Sureshta Devi versus Om Prakash, a landmark case that defines what mutual consent really means in divorce law. Let's get into the facts because this one has a very real, almost uncomfortable human angle. We have a husband and wife married way back in 1968. But here's the catch, they barely lived together. In fact, after about 6 to 7 months of marriage, they separated. Years passed and their relationship essentially existed only on paper. Then comes a brief attempt in 1984 to 1985 where they stayed together for about a month. But even then, they did not live like husband and wife. So clearly, the marriage had broken down. Now comes the interesting part. On January 8, 1985, both parties go to the court together and file a petition for divorce by mutual consent under Section 13B of Hindu Marriage Act 1955. Next day, their statements are recorded. Everything seems smooth. But just a few days later, on January 15, 1985, the wife drops a bombshell. She files an application saying her consent was obtained under pressure and threat. She was not allowed to consult her family and she no longer agrees to the divorce. In short, I take back my consent. Now, this creates a legal mess. The trial court eventually dismisses the divorce petition, but the High Court reverses that and grants divorce, saying once consent is given, it cannot be withdrawn unilaterally. And that's how the case reaches the Supreme Court. So here's the core legal issue. Can a party unilaterally withdraw consent in a mutual divorce petition under Section 13B before the decree is passed? Now, before we jump into judgment, let's understand the legal framework. Section 13B was introduced in 1976 to allow divorce by mutual consent. It has two important parts. Subsection 1, where one files the petition. It requires parties must be living separately for at least 1 year. They have not been able to live together and they mutually agree that the marriage should be dissolved. Subsection 2. This is the real game changer. It introduces a cooling off period. Minimum 6 months, maximum 18 months. During this time, parties must again come back and make a joint motion. The court verifies if consent is genuine and only then it can grant the divorce. Now, here's where things get tricky. Is the consent at the time of filing enough? Or should it continue till the final decree is passed? The High Court said consent at the time of filing is enough. But the Supreme Court said not so fast. The court carefully analyzed Section 13B and said filing a joint petition is just the first step. It does not automatically dissolve the marriage. There is a deliberate waiting period. And why? Because the law recognizes that emotions change, pressure exists, people reconsider. So, this 6 to 18-month period is like a reflection window. Now, the court makes its most important observation. Mutual consent must continue till the decree is passed, and not just at the beginning, not just on paper, but throughout the process. And here's the logic: if one party says at the final stage, I no longer consent, then how can the court say this is a divorce by mutual consent? It becomes contradictory. The court goes even deeper and says mutual consent is a sine qua non, an essential condition. Without it, the court has no jurisdiction to grant divorce under Section 13B. Now, some high courts earlier had taken a different view. They said once consent is given at filing, it cannot be withdrawn. They even relied on civil procedure principles like joint petitions under CPC. But the Supreme Court rejected this particular approach. Why? Because they said matrimonial law deals with human relationships, not just procedural technicalities. So you can't force someone to stay bound to a decision they no longer agree with. The court also linked this to Section 23, subsection 1, clause BB, which requires that consent must be free from force, fraud, or undue influence. And if a party withdraws consent, that itself signals that the court needs to be cautious. There's also a subtle but important clarification. Living separately does not mean necessarily living in different houses. It means not living as husband and wife. So, even under the same roof, if there's no marital relationship, they are considered separated. Coming back to the main question, the Supreme Court ultimately held a party can withdraw consent at any time before the decree. Mutual consent must exist at both stages: filing of petition, final motion. If consent is withdrawn, the court cannot grant divorce. So, what happens in this case? The wife withdrew her consent before the final decree, which means no mutual consent exists anymore, and therefore, no divorce can be granted under Section 13B. The Supreme Court sets aside High Court's decision. Now, let's quickly wrap up the key takeaways. Mutual consent is not a one time agreement, it must continue till the final decree. The cooling off period is meaningful, not procedural. Courts cannot force divorce without continuing consent. And honestly, this case reminds us of something very real. Decisions about marriage are deeply personal, and the law allows space for second thoughts. This is it for today's episode. Until next time, consent means consent all the way through. Bye.